Hello, hello, hello. It's Renee. Welcome to my channel. And for those that are in the group, I just want to say thank you. It's the end of the year. I hope that you had a great, wonderful, prosperous year. I know I've taken a sabbatical from doing videos, but I have been working behind the scenes, and I go through seasons. I didn't have a lack of content. And I think I might talk more about for anyone that's interested in, coming online and having your own page and getting monetized. I think I'll talk about that. That's what I do this time of year, especially in January. I start to put together the year's plan um, for the up and coming year. So yeah, I think I'm going to talk more about that. Um, also, um, I just want to thank Kay for designing my sweatshirts and t-shirts. Kingdom Heirs has an apparel line now. And if anyone out there, you have your own sayings that you want to put on a sweatshirt or t-shirt, um, Kay, she's in the group. You can reach out to her and she can take care of you. Her prices are excellent. She can take your vision and run with it. So that's exciting. We have a great rapport. Her, my daughter, and myself. I came up with the slogans, of course, Miss Cashflow. It could also be Mr. Cashflow, Junior Cashflow. Um, we have Heirs. We have uh, wealth generation. We have legacy. We have, what else do we have? I'm looking at, I know we have 5 different designs, but um, self-made millionaire. All the sweatshirts did very well this season. I am so excited. And then there's a story behind it. So I'm just going to forewarn you a little bit. I usually do short videos. I got that down pat. But I've had so much to say to you guys that, um, you know, I'm going to start doing my videos again. So just get prepared. So I'm not going to do it on this video, but each of the shirts and their sayings, there's a story behind it. And so um, I will share what that is all about. But today, with the title, it talks about tenant. And so, as you know, I am a landlord, and I've had a pretty good run, but I do have still some stories to tell about tenants. And, you just have to, it's all part of being a landlord. Um, and you learn from those experiences. And I had a landlord. When I first started, I had my very first tenant I had purchased a duplex, and the place was empty, and the previous owner allowed me to advertise and rent it out before we closed uh, on the deal. And so found the tenant, screened the tenant. She was a perfect first tenant. She paid her rent on time. Um, but I knew it was going to be a short term 1 year lease because when she moved in, she already had it was a 2-bedroom apartment, her and her husband, and she already had a child, and then she had one on the way. So we knew that down the road that she would need a bigger place. And so just a key tip to your landlords out there, like if you have other properties, like and someone moves in, you know that they're going to need something bigger, you can then start to find it a year in advance for them, and keep that relationship going. It's, when you have a good tenant, you definitely, they like you, you like them, you build a rapport, you can provide their next place. So anyway, a year is up, she wants to move out. She's like, well, my mom is interested. And so I was like, okay, great. I didn't have to look for a new tenant. My next tenant was already in line to take over the place. She was already familiar with the place. My first mistake was I didn't do the background check on her. And um, I assumed, and you know what they say about assuming, is that I just assumed she was going to be a perfect tenant just like her daughter. She was the worst tenant. I had to evict her, um, or start the process. And so I have an attorney, so I pay an attorney to do that for me because, I'm busy, I'm working, and I'm out here buying real estate. So anyway, we get to court. I did go to court because that was in the time when I was doing my own property management, just learning and seeing how this all comes together. We get to court. She goes up, they call her up, and she goes to the judge and says, "Oh, I didn't know that I could get an attorney." So he extends it for another 30 days to give her time to get an attorney, which is a whole nother month of her not paying her rent. Well, a week out, she calls me and she's like, "Hey, Renee, you know, I'll move out. I won't prolong this, but if you allow my daughter, which was my first tenant, to move back in." Okay. So of course she was a perfect tenant. Second mistake. Um, each time, even though she was a previous tenant, you have to do that background check. So the daughter moves in, she's no longer married, her whole situation changed. And it was just like a nightmare, but she did pay her rent, but she left the apartment in such a mess. The tub was clogged. So your tenants can be a nightmare, but you want to be on top of those things. Um, so now I'm better at it. I have property managers managing my place. But I have a tenant just recently that I had to issue a notice. Yes, right before Christmas. How could I possibly do that? But I had no other choice because she made it through COVID. I mean, this is her third year. So, she's been with me for a while. She's paid her rent. But then I noticed, like the first part of the year, like when she got her tax return, she was paying in advance. But she thought she paid more in advance than she anticipated. So then she got behind. She didn't pay the next month's rent. And so after that, she started paying partial payments. So just coming out of COVID and, during COVID, there was a period where you couldn't evict the tenants. So, but she paid enough that I could still pay the expenses over there, pay my mortgage. I have a mortgage, I have condo fees over there. I have insurance. It's a condo, so taxes is included. So taxes, so the expenses, repairs, well, it was enough to pay the mortgage, but not, everything, but at least my mortgage was being paid. So that wasn't coming out of pocket. So, but then like 3 months in or 4 months in, she was on a 2-year lease. That's one of the things you can do with tenants. You don't have to do a year-to-year lease. You can do a 5-year lease if you want. 3-year lease. So anyway, I reached out to her. I'm like, "Hi, are you having problems? If you are having problems, I'll give you an out. We can end this lease without any penalties." So she didn't really respond. Then the air conditioner went out. So I had to replace the air, which they couldn't replace the air without replacing the heater as well. So I, replaced that. So that was like a $5,500 expense. And so I'm still kind of reaching out and then like trying to track her down. She's like, "Oh, she started giving like the dog ate the rent, stuff like that, you know, just stories." And so my daughter is my property manager. So, just navigating through that. Plus, you got your own life, it's busy. So it's not hard to become a slack landlord. And so then she didn't pay her rent for, October. She got caught up. And that was right when the guy was finishing up installing the air. But then, like a couple of days later, rent was due all over again for the following month. And so she had already gave us a roundabout story. So then I knew, okay, time is up. So she didn't pay her November rent, and then she didn't pay her December rent. Okay, I knew that if I were to evict her, I had to have, my side, that I've done everything possible. And if you go to court and you're not, on top of your tenant, the judge is going to be looking at you because the tenant has rights. You could be in a place where the tenants have more rights than the landlord, or you could be in a place where the landlord have more rights than the tenant. But you want to always have your paperwork in place. So I had to issue the 3-day notice because, by her not paying any rent, now I'm paying mortgages, at 2 different places. And so, praise God, I was able to do that because of, you know, preparing for, emergency funds and, just preparing myself. I'm wanting to, buy some property this year in 2023. So I've been getting my stuff together, my ducks in order, getting my budget straight. And so anyway, and then back in October, she was like, "Oh, I'm a bad tenant. Oh, I know you guys want to evict me and blah blah blah," just being funny with it. So you know what? When she was late, she didn't. I give a grace period. After the grace period, the notice, we taped it on her door. 3 days later, I had both months' rent. I wasn't gonna play, and you can't take it personally. It's not personal. I don't become friends with my tenants. I'm very fair. Everybody has problems. I've been a tenant, so I'll work with you. But I can also have somebody in there paying the rent on time. So, you have to decide, do you want to keep taking money out of your pocket so that somebody else can live free? You're not running a homeless shelter. So, so you do have to make that move. So put the notice on the door in 3 days. She, all of a sudden, immediately she's returning the call like, hey, okay. She had a little attitude, but that's okay. That's all right. But 3 days later, she paid her rent. And so, but I already had my attorney on speed dial. You have to move. And yes, that's an expense for me to involve my attorney. It's an expense to have a tenant move out and then get the place ready for a new tenant. You just have to run it properly. And so, yeah, I issued a 3-day notice and had my rent. Now, it doesn't always pan out, but you have to follow the legal process to evict a tenant because you don't want that to fall back. You don't want it to get delayed. You don't want a landlord to come out or when you go to court where now the judge is looking at you like, what are you doing? Why is she 2 months, you got to explain all that. Why is it she's 2 months behind? How did you allow that to happen? You don't want anything to backfire on you as a landlord. And so it worked out. But from this point on, is she a day late, you're going to put that notice on the door because, you have to, if you're renting, you have to pay your rent. And going forward, the way that they say that the economy's going and the recession and, prices are high and, renting is high. So, it's a big inconvenience for both sides. But, if, you have a family, you want to make sure that you have a roof over your head. So anyway, I just wanted to come on and talk about that. For you landlords out there, you just keep it moving. Of course, the first time you have to evict somebody, it's a little stressful. and it's a pain in the butt, but you got to do it. You have to do it, or else, I do have a property that's paid for, so that tenant, um, I'm not going to start sweating because I don't have a mortgage to pay, but I still have to pay taxes. I still have to pay insurance. So, either way, you have to follow the rules and process that as quickly as you possibly can. And so I hope this was helpful for you. And, comment below how you deal with your tenants and when they're late on their rent. What are your tactics? Share some of that down below. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.